boy Jimmy here in Puerto Rico, enjoying warm weather, and my boy Oriol is where?
In Manhattan.
How cold is it out there?
Today's actually warmed up. We're at 40s.
Tell us a little bit about you.
29 years of age. I was born in Mexico, in Cancun, to be precise. So I know some of that warm weather. And I lived there till I was 3. My family moved up north to Monclova, close to the border with the U.S. And eventually we migrated in 2001 to the United States. So I lived a big part of my life there in Texas, where we met, McAllen, Texas.
How old were you when you moved to the States?
I was 9 years old when I moved over here.
Now, did you speak English at that time?
No. So at the time, I had learned a little bit, basic English. You learn just like you take a high school Spanish class. I took some English classes in Mexico in school, but I couldn't speak it, right? I mean, I knew some vocabulary, but I couldn't speak it. And initially we moved to Harlingen, which it was, everybody basically spoke English. There was no Spanish speakers there at the time, especially in my school. Not a single teacher or student spoke Spanish. So I kind of had to learn it, the hard way.
I could only imagine how challenging that was, because here it is, somebody born in a different country. You come here at a young age. The good thing is we pick up English quicker when you're younger, but it's still a challenge nevertheless. What made you get into marketing? What kind of technology background did you have? How old were you when you kind of got started? When
I was 11, I didn't know a lot of people, when we initially moved here, especially with that language barrier. My mom actually got me a computer, and I started dabbling a little bit on the internet, and I was always curious how websites work, so I started learning a little bit of programming. At 11, that's when my mom actually created her business. It was an import-export company there in the border, and she needed help with a website, a logo, so I started learning how to do that, and I actually did that for her at the time. So that's how I kind of got introduced to technology. You had created something, I'm not sure if it was a game or there was something you had created for fun and eventually sold it. Is that correct? So it was a kind of a gaming website that, I did it for fun. You meet some people online, started creating a kind of community around it, started grabbing a lot of traction and a lot of traffic over time. So I started learning, how to do Google AdSense and started monetizing that. And this was, back in the late 2000s. And it eventually grew, to $2,000 a month of income. I was like 13, 14. Wow. It just led I started, dealing with different challenges. There were always new things I could learn. And one of the things I had mentioned was, thanks to the fact that I spoke English, a lot of the time, YouTube was still new, all these video tutorials and content and all that stuff. Most of it was in English. So I was kind of lucky enough to be able to learn it and teach myself how to do it, because there was a lot of wealth of information now, to learn from. And how old were you when you sold that business? So I was 16. I was going my junior year in high school, where somebody, approached me to kind of take it over, right, and handle it more professionally and so on. And for me, it wasn't something I was really into at the time. I actually wanted to be a civil engineer, right, completely different. It was just something I was kind of dabbling into. I offloaded it, and I just kind of focused a little bit more on being a kid. I was still in high school during that summer. I bought a one-way ticket to Sweden. I told my parents I was going to be back in 2 weeks, and I stayed there for 3 months. I got one of those unlimited train passes, so I just went from country to country. I just visiting, exploring. I was staying in hostels, so every city I would arrive, I would meet different people, and go out and party and do all those things you do at the time. So it was a fun experience going from Sweden, Denmark, Germany, all the way down to Rome in Italy, and then back up. I was just kind of traveling around. What happens in Europe when you're in high school stays in Europe when you were in high school. So we won't get too much into that. But how old were you when you decided, I want to start a business? I want to get into marketing. It happened by accident. I was going to college for civil engineering at the time, and as a college student, I saw people were selling logos and websites on Craigslist, and they were charging a good amount of money. And I was like, hey, I can do this. This is easy for me. So I started putting ads on Craigslist and getting a couple of customers and making some extra money. So as I started seeing some demand, I said, hey, maybe this could be a little bit of a lucrative. So what year did you start Codesm? That started in 2013. I had actually started a different business at the time. It was called Zurhin. I had a partner, some guy I had met at college. We started the first kind of entity. I started it with him, and we grew that pretty substantially to, I think we were doing $250,000 a year in sales for, 2-3 people. It was a good amount. What kind of business was it? Marketing or? It was same thing, marketing. But, at the time we were kind of doing websites, graphic design, logos, very just product driven, right? It grew quite a bit where I decided, hey, maybe I can put college on hold. Maybe I can kind of maybe this is something I can make a career out of.
Did you ever graduate from college, if you don't mind me asking?
No, so I didn't finish college. After my second year, I basically just focused on the business at the time.
You started your business, Codesm, now since 2013. What motivates you to continue?
Well, the thing that drew me to the business was I was always meeting different business owners, learning about their challenges, and I was kind of presented with different problems to help solve, right? So it's something that's always kept me growing. That's always kind of pushed me to learn new things and expand. So it never stayed mundane. I just kept expanding. Of course, after a while you start acquiring. I think right now we have over close to 50 people that work for the business. You start acquiring all these friendships and through employees, right, and through people you do business with. So some of the original people we started business with are still part of the company, right? So I've seen their families grow from
nice.
When they got married, had kids, etc. So that's always been motivated that they believed in the vision and can kind of continue helping me. Whether there was a time one of our Michael, one of the guys that's been with me since 2013, said, "Hey man, we can't pay you. We don't have," and he stuck around. And that was the first year. I was like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna have to let you go this month." He still continued helping and carried on. So till date, he's still working with us.
Nice. Now I know how you are as a person. I know you're real laid back, kind of quiet, right? Would you agree you're an introvert?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely.
How has that been a challenge for you, or how has that benefited you in a business where there's some sales involved? How have you overcome those obstacles?
I think in a sense, it's put me in a disadvantage, but I've been able to use that as a benefit, right? I mean, since I wanted to avoid of just direct sales and building relationships, and I don't think I had enough confidence in myself at the time. It helped me try different approaches on gaining business, right? And that's through all types of marketing efforts, whether it was marketing automation, cold emailing people, doing Facebook ads, Google, all types of different marketing efforts to try to reach to a customer, aside from just picking up the phone and calling them, right? Which is always the easiest of, why are you going through all these different avenues? It helped me kind of learn and master all those avenues inadvertently, right?
Okay.
Which ended up how I ended up going from technology more into marketing, just learning each all those options.
You mentioned earlier that things like YouTube were some of the resources you use to learn more. What are some resources, some maybe books, or do you have a mentor? What are some tools that you currently use to continue growing in your business?
I think one of the way I've always grown is really just gotten challenges that I honestly don't know how to resolve, and I just I can do it, right? And then you kind of put yourself in the middle of a commitment, which when you're a small business you can, right? And basically figure out every single way to resolve it, right? Consult people in different industries, or Google, YouTube, whatever. But just being presented with different types of challenges has what's kind of kept me advancing on my knowledge, and not feeling comfortable. I think the moment you start kind of feeling comfortable with everything you're doing, and that's kind of where this is not going anywhere else.
Being comfortable, can't grow in a comfortable place. So for those who are wanting to start a business, maybe they want to be an entrepreneur full time, maybe they just want to do it on the side, make some extra cash. What's some advice you could give to them?
I think first you want to understand if you really want to be an entrepreneur or if you're just pursuing wealth, right? I think because if you're just trying to pursue wealth and a better life, entrepreneurship is one avenue, but also gaining a career. Is just having a straightforward career is another, right? Going to college, doing that. In 7th grade, I met one of my closest friends. He went to college. He got the internships. I think he's far more successful than I am. And now I've met up with him in Manhattan, right? Completely different avenues, but he did it in a completely different way. So entrepreneurship is not necessarily the only way to get there. I think there's kind of a glamour people sometimes see behind it, but they don't realize, they only hear from those 0.001% that actually make it. They don't hear all the, 99.9% of people that don't make it, right? Because it's a very hard and treacherous path to go through. But it's definitely, most of the people I've met, I mean, they're kind of mainly pursuing wealth versus wanting to be dealing with these challenges of being up till midnight, right? And being anxious all the time because, you know, I mean, you don't want to let your customers down, right? There's just so many things that go behind it aside from just being an entrepreneur.
You mentioned some people may want to be an entrepreneur because they're pursuing, maybe it's financials, maybe it's freedom from a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. For you, here's a question. What are you pursuing?
I think it's not necessarily I'm pursuing anything. I feel grateful for the opportunity that I have. I feel it would be wasteful for me not to take advantage. From where I've come from, the opportunities, you know, being in this capitalistic, you know, kind of nation where there is a bit more of class mobility to a certain extent, I feel like I'd be wasting that opportunity, right? So I think I'm in that position where of privilege, right? And I think privilege is relative to what you have, right? I think being to other countries and being from a third world country, that also puts things into a little bit of perspective, knowing that just, you know, the US population alone is 4% of the world, right? So you're already in top 4% just to cross the border. Now, not everybody might agree with the US, kind of the US system of doing things, but it does, you know, from all the systems I've seen, right, it does allow for the maximum class, you know, mobility of being able to come from, you know, having no connections or anything in this country to living 3 blocks away from the Empire State Building, right? So it does, you know, the opportunities there.
This country is far from perfect. I think no country is perfect. However, those of us who live in this country, we do have an opportunity and an advantage to grow as much as we put in. Obviously, there are some obstacles for certain individuals, but as a whole, I believe, at what you mentioned, we could definitely still grow in this country. At least as of today, you're a living example of somebody who came from a different country, didn't speak the language, and here you are today running your business and have been successful at it. And I think I've seen many people who have lost their businesses and started another one. And I've seen people lose 9, 10 businesses, and just that one that just takes off. And you don't see that a lot outside of this country. You do see it, but not as often as you would see it in this country.
The possibilities are everywhere, right? But where it's a little bit easier, I can definitely agree with this country, right? And that's one of the reasons I had the opportunity. My father actually started building his own business in Mexico, and I had the opportunity to go back and take over that business. But, you know, it is a very, you know, with security, you know, is it really your business? Can somebody come and just take it one day? I mean, there's a little bit level. And something like Europe. I mean, I know a lot of people from Europe and I've been there, and I see why it's great in terms of a social system. But the amount of that you're taxed does not allow you to have a 9 to 5 job, save up, and, you know, try to start something else, right? The amount of regulations, positive and negative. And there's a lot of negatives to not having those regulations, right? I mean, but it's just, hey, you're presented with these opportunities, not as many regulations, a lot more flexibility, as you said, you know, to not be as knowledgeable and be able to launch something. I'm grateful I have that opportunity, and I feel like it'd be kind of a disservice to my family and to a lot of the people that have been behind me to not take advantage of it, right? I just feel a little bit wasteful.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put your contact information below. Codesm, I'll put the website, how they could contact you.
Thank you very much for having me, Jimmy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a good one and enjoy that cold weather, and I'll enjoy the warm weather for you.
Thank you.
All right.